Yeah, we are not like Ior Bock. Okay, now we start.
I think I must have been 20 then.
Maybe 19.
Yeah, I think I was 17 when I came there to Gumbostrand first time in a Christina party.
I was about 24.
I was about 28.
First memory of him, Suomenlinna.
I was going to India already first time 1989, also to Goa.
No, I met him in Goa also, but I didn't travel with him. I went to Goa myself too.
I met Ior and Soma, who was his friend from India. And Soma was inviting me there and we'll be traveling around India.
I met them a couple of times, had a nice talk. I met them in a party, you know, sit down on the mats, drink tea, smoke pipe, have a good talk. And say, you know, bye-bye, you know, when it was time to go. And then I went a year later to India, again, second trip to me. And then one day I think maybe it would be nice to come and say hello to Ior, you know, that where are you staying? And then I went to that particular village in North Goa called Sapora, where Ior stayed all his seasons in Goa, and went to his veranda and met him first time.
I mean, it was really good times in Goa. When I was there the first time, it was still very positive and there was little negative and there was quite little problems kind of.
I would think that he was a very good man to travel with.
I don't know why, but for some reason very easy to travel with him.
That he was not the man who was telling other people what they could do or what they should do. He let people find, you know, their own initiative, you know, on many things, yeah.
It was supposed to come to Moscow and from there to Helsinki, but the plane was late, so we missed the Helsinki plane and we have to spend one night in the hotel. But we need visa, so, and we don't have. And I was talking on the phone and asking for this tea, but it's impossible. A few times I was trying and then Ior was talking to the phone and then he was really flipping out. They were bringing.
When I traveled with him, it was easy because you could tell him what time when we are eating, and when we are smoking, and when we are sleeping. And he never like resisted, you know.
He loved to do things by himself. He was very kind of individual in that way.
And on the same trip when I was trying to organize our tickets airport, it was Aeroflot. I was trying and trying maybe 1 hour. Then I was going back to Ior. He was waiting for me on the bench and not possible. Then Ior was taking these tickets and going to the guy there, putting the tickets on the table and say Helsinki. And the guy was taking the tickets and taka. There, go on.
So I traveled with him, I think 3 times to Russia and 3 or 4 times to Sweden. And some nice local trips also in Finland. And he was a very nice company, yeah, because he had a great knowledge, you know, about architecture, you know, and history. And so he was a perfect guy to go into the museum, for example, and look at the different displays, you know.
His knowledge and everything in him actually that you could really trust on him. Maybe in question about if you want to know something about history or art or the art history or whatever from the history or the past, that everything should be in proportion and in harmony, and or could be maybe between the closest friends or people, but something more personal that the tea should be here already, but nothing like more serious. Nothing should be. Everything was very open.
And he was a very interesting man, you know. I think we talk a lot about history of Helsinki and history of Sveaborg, you know, Suomenlinna and all, you know, other I think the conversation was very free, you know, for many hours.
He didn't always talk about saga. Sometimes he talked about like tea leaves or nature or, you know, weather or anything.
Yeah, royal families, what happened in Sweden and Denmark or in Britain, or he was very much following those stories of the royal families, for example.
He knows quite a lot about theater and ballet and different manuscripts and acting, you know.
He could talk about anything for 2 hours. Like, he had a very good understanding about almost everything.
I think Ior was quite a good judge of character in some ways. So he straight away found I was studying biodynamic farming and was very into natural living, and so he started off by telling me very beautiful stories about how the Finnish people lived before, how the system was for getting through the winter. Because it was not so easy to get through winter here. There is a lot of time where you just sit and talk, and there is not so much to do in winter. Of course, handicraft, you can sit and with your knife do some nice woodwork and sit and make nice clothes and all this part. But anyway, it's months where there's just time to sit and spend that time together with other people, which doesn't really leave time to think about stuff and things anymore. We just kind of take it in and believe it, or take it in and reject it.
And he loved beauty. And from the this kind of old times, they like the beautiful people and tall people. If somebody was tall, if somebody had a long legs, or if somebody was beautiful, it was like, wow, you look so good.
Tall and blonde.
And you have a long legs. He never said anything bad if somebody was short and like had a short legs. He always like could pick something when somebody had good qualities. Yeah.
He was really an artist. He even got artist's pension in the end of his life. We can have such a thing that when an artist gets old, they haven't really made so much money, so they haven't earned so much pension, so the state can give them artist's pension. So he got that in the end, which was quite funny. Because I never really kind of saw him as an artist. For me, he was always a storyteller. I didn't know him in his artist year. He was older than my mother, so I wasn't around kind of in his youth to enjoy his parties and dancing together. He loved dancing.
I thought I gave him a phone call that autumn, but next springtime the line was cut. The phone was not working anymore, and that made difficult because he didn't have a phone anymore. So you should know where to write a card or a letter and then wait for an answer. And that's actually how we get into his house. I write a card, sent to him, and then one lady called me and told that yes, Ior got your card and asked her to call me and give directions how to go there to meet him. So already that time it was a little difficult to meet him.
He was an easy man to go to, that you know there is some people, hey, let's go and meet Ior. He was always there, you know. So when he pressed his button and he replied, it means, you know, that the door at the corridor opens. And then you walk the stair, and then the door to his apartment was always fully open. And then you already hear, you know, that he's putting cups and plates and spoons, you know, in order, and the pot is on stove. And then, you know, you come in, and after some time, you know, you sit down and you have your tea with him.
Very important, it should have been Ceylon tea, so tea from Sri Lanka. It was kind of
sun-dried leaves.
Very natural, to get energy from the sun. So this leaf was very important in his story, this leaf and mahla, because we drink the sap, the energy of the leaf, which has also the energy of the sun for the mind, to elevate, to lift up, to enlighten the mind some way.
Beedies and tea and bread and candles, if it happened to be that time of the year. Or even he burned the candles all around the year because he had his there's curtains down all the time.
Even in the summertime, there was always curtains on the windows. You could never see out from.
I think he said that he never drinks tea alone, that he always waits for some people to come in. But I don't know if it's true. Nobody can prove if he had the tea alone or not. Yeah.
It was quite amazing to go to this house. The guy sitting there mostly naked. There's just candles. And seeing all these paintings on the walls and all these old books, and like going there like it's like two young guys, and seeing all this is like, wow. Like this is a real mythology.
You live your ordinary life, and then you go in there and you enter into something different. That's kind of the nest of the saga.
It was kind of a safe haven in town here also. Place where you could kind of step in through his door and things were always the same. There was warm tea, good company, interesting people. There was no other such kind of place here in Finland really, or in Helsinki. For me, probably there was, but I didn't know anybody.
And when he was smoking, you could really see that he was entering into a different level of consciousness. When he reached the state that the stories start to have a free flow.
At one point of his life, if he was rude to someone, he did it in such a special way, so you really needed to read it between the lines, you know. And maybe that person only that he was being rude understood that now Ior is being really nasty to me, while maybe others don't pay any notice, you know, or attention, you know, what Ior is saying here. So as people say that Ior was showing many faces, you know, many aspects and characters of Ior as there were people to spend time with, you know.
His whole character kind of changed when he became the storyteller. So that was a very specific experience to have, to see how he did it.
It was sometimes just few persons there, but sometimes it was like 30 persons there having sauna and sitting down quietly and had the conversation together, all these people. So if you had something to comment about in the story, what was going on, you wait for your moment and then you comment, otherwise you shut up. That is one side from knowing him, what many people been getting this kind of possibilities to enjoy or join this kind of moments with people thinking together evenings.
The saga thing was more like one-to-one. So very often, even if we were many people on a circle sitting there, he maybe chose one, and very often it was kind of newcomer to the group. And the old people who heard the stories before, they had to listen. And he got connection to the one, and telling the story from one mind to another mind. He said that in this way he gets kind of connection and inspiration for the storytelling.
Yeah, he always told the story to one person, even if there was 100 people around. Yeah, it was only like focus for one person. He looked sometimes others, but the main focus was there. It's like the storytelling technique, I think, some kind of.
I think Ior had that kind of at least that kind of forgiveness, you know. If there is some empathy, you know, in Ior's story, I don't know if because he was also a very good actor, you know. So we don't know, you know, if he's acting now or if he's there, you know, for real. But I think quite many times he pointed that he like no hard feelings, you know, for anyone, you know.
The way how he was talking, it went beyond the history, because he could say that then the king this and then put the hand on the pocket, and you know, this kind of like you don't say like as a guide, you know, this kind of details that like what the person exactly did in that moment. And I'm sure people like other guides, they didn't like this kind of style that you go to the kind of personal details. And he said that I don't remember what was the king, but they had a special special permission to have this little rabbit leg in the pants to show that there was something a little bit more. And because the pants were very, very tight, they even put it when they were wet. The pants were wet, so they put it in, and you could see everything. But this certain guy had this permission to put the extra rabbit leg to show that there was. So these kind of stories, you just can't find anywhere.
Yeah.
And they say that okay, Ior is making up these things, but he didn't. And he loved it. He loved to make jokes and tell stories. So but it's really hard to say what is.
My aunt danced in England in one company called London Contemporary Dance Theatre. Very famous. Still dancing. Now she lives in Sydney with her husband. Her husband was also dancing in the same group. And Ior went even to visit them in London. Once Ior went to London and he wanted to make a show. And he had a big round table. And then he did this kind of yoga show on this table. But to really make it more kind of flashy and more nice to watch, he had been fixing propane, small tubes going everywhere, so he could light 27 flames around. Oh, how many ever Shiva has in this wheel? Is it 27, I think, or something? So he could light all those flames, and then he did this yoga thing inside on the table in the middle of all these flames. And he just had 2 propane things under the table. And he went with this show to England and wanted to perform, but he got a no, not in London. No propane like that, and no dancing inside the fire. So he couldn't really ever perform his stuff there in London. And it's a little bit mysterious years. I think he lived in a car in London or something. He had a hippie van.
What is true and what is not true. So Ior made this yoga show in 1965 where he had this gas fire around this round. So it was like a sun. He was in the middle of the sun. And he does all this yoga show, and this was 64 or 65 in 2 different cities, in Vaasa and Turku. He wanted to do the around the world tour, doing this sun plata, the sun ring world tour. He put some advertisements and wrote the letters around the world. He got lots of answers, the answers, and people invited him around the world. So in that time, he said, for the people who saw the letters, he said I've been in all these places. He had maybe 20 letters from different countries, and he told to people that I've been in all these places. And in my interview, he says actually I didn't go to any of these places. I never made this world tour. But he was this kind of guy. He at the same time he has this saga and he's telling this amazing thing, but he was also like a joker. So who knows what was true and what was not true? You really you cannot say.
Yeah, he was a joker. He had, I think, good sense of humor.
And still many people say that he went to so many countries to do this show.
Oh, really?
Many people who travel to India, and in a way they go there kind of little bit looking for some culture, something old, explanations of life and universe and in general everything. And I think Ior had one of the best ones. It was really, really nice. His story was always very humane in that way, that it had only to do with humans and nature. It was we who did this thing, it's our story. Mythology in one way, just this history also. We make those old characters into gods and think that the people from before were just fantasizing about gods, when it maybe in reality is real people behind there.
His style of explaining was so super unique, like storyteller, and he was starting, if I'm asking something about joulupukki or First World War, for example. He is starting, maybe 1,000 years back and telling all kind of stories and king lines from Austria, whatever, and I'm a little bit getting already boring. This is not the question I was asking. But then in the end, okay, it's coming there. But it's coming so thoroughly, like, really because why? And not just saying because it was political disturbance there.
In the time of the story, from this 20 years back when he started it, like he didn't want to start it always like from the beginning again, even there came some outsider, if there happened to be other people who knew something already about it. So then the discussion or the conversation went on in that moment of the story.
But what was quite funny in your story is how he stubbornly kind of repeated the same details from the start all the way to the end. At one point I had a box of all these tapes that had been kind of recorded through all the years. You can hear how much he has been changing the story through the years. But there was never really any change. There was always the same story, always the same words, the same details. It kind of never changed. One would think if somebody really has been figuring out and inventing this whole thing, he would kind of not really remember what he said 20 years ago, 10 years ago, and it would be a little bit different. But no, it was the same story almost on every tape. Very impressive in one way, and he stubbornly kept on repeating the same story all the way until the end.
Ior could tell the same story for 1,000 times. He didn't care if there was like people who's been with him for 20 years. And many times people are like, oh my God, again, same story. But then there was always a little bit, some angle was different. Maybe everyone heard it first time.
And there was quite many groups coming with totally unrealistical expectations also of kind of getting to know the secrets of the world in 5 minutes, and there was never such an option. The world is not so easy. It's a long, big story of how man evolved and developed and what we did with the planet and what the planet did with us and this kind of cooperation.
For example, if there was a group of Finnish and Swedes and English, and of course everybody talks in English, so all people can understand. But then suddenly, in the middle of conversation or even in the middle of sentence, Ior is just changing, the language from English to Finnish. And all the people are just looking at him, mouth open. But nobody says nothing. Many, I think, of the issues were discussed or handled like a little bit under the mat, that okay, it's not so important. I'm only in a listening department.
And it's also one really, sometimes I've been personally feeling mentally really like quite deep because of this, and even people around me, especially my parents. I've been freaking out and flipping in my own way here in many years' time. Because to handle the story in your daily life with people who are not in the story, to balance this is a bit difficult, or it was more difficult before. You couldn't keep your own mouth shut. You just had to talk about it, and then people start to flip around that of your own flipping.
Difficult that the saga is so huge that it blows up your brain, and so this way it's difficult to go in because you have to change your whole life view, the whole view about history and mythology.
Kind of brain was quite strong one, yeah, but in one, I think in one natural good way. He really concentrated his energy to just to go on with the story and hope there is some people still around who could go on with him with the story, so he could create it and remind himself of everything what he'd been understanding and thinking with the help of other people around. He didn't want to stop till the end because it's one endless story anyway, so he wanted to just make it wider as much as possible. But of course he understood that all people around, it's not possible to get it so easily, so much at a time. You have really to melt it down.
And especially Ior was many times referring to this, that you cannot really push. Maybe same thing, that he is not taking care of his business.
And he said that he has these little boxes in the brain, like tiny boxes, like thousands of them. And he goes in and he can pick the box and get the information from there.
And he said that when he has been searching the facts of history of Suomenlinna Viapori, so when he has two pieces of information about same thing, and when he finds the third thing, then he can kind of make it sure and then store it into one of those boxes. So this was his kind of memory technique, but also to how to estimate the facts. Not only accept anything, but you should have references from two other sources, and then you can regard it as a fact, not a story, but a fact.
It was many times like if something was somehow controversial, he would get a little bit agitated maybe sometimes, and like and let's keep into this.
And the saga became, there is no love. The love is, in your balls, and it feels like it's not the whole story. And Ior said that the woman had more of this emotion, but the men were just like breeders.
Maybe he also heard a lot of woman stories, but he don't maybe want to like to tell it to the men so much. Maybe if somebody asks, because he lived with these two women according to.
But maybe a little bit in the saga, the men and women, they are a little bit separate. You have to search your own holes, with other women.
So Ior always wanted to keep it very separate, that ladies are on their side with their own ladies thing, and the men, are on men's side and doing the men's thing.
Well, Ior tried to make these tapes for the woman, and he tried to find some strong woman who could take that position, like like a leader kind of. But nobody really could take it. It was too much. People live modern life. They couldn't go that deep.
He was sometimes very strict on what men and women should do or not do. For example, he was supposing that when women are present, they should do certain things serving the men. For example, to do some things with the tea. And if women were not willing to help, Ior could have a kind of rage at that point, even shouting to people, "What kind of woman you are?" Bah, 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 bah. Very strongly, really emotional thing to come out with this kind of shouting to kind of strange person. And usually we didn't see that person anymore.
The woman who I interviewed, they say that the love was missing from the saga. They were really missing when they were among this group of men and women. It's like that Ior didn't go there. Ior didn't talk about it then. And partly maybe that's why some negative things happened also.
So it went on and on. Years went by, and the temple was, excavations were going, on, and of course, once there is something happening, then people are more enthusiastic about. But then I think it started to dry out, a little bit. There was no money, to continue. Sort of negative reflections, started to come up already, as I saw it, maybe already by as early as 95. Because I knew that guy quite well, this Petri Valli, he was this musician, who made, also a whole album based on Bock Saga. Name of the band was called Kingston Wall. And all the lyrics, in each song very much influenced by Bock Saga. And this guy, I think he had such an output, from the story that at the end, he started to regret, what he had said and done. And at one point he feels that, Ior is the evil, of himself.
And actually the most negative pressures didn't come from this story, it came from outside stories. More just this crazy bunch of people around him who was...
And I don't know if it's true story, but maybe it even happened that he went to Ior's place at the last weeks or last months of his life and tried to look or seek some kind of advice, help, solution, to my really heavy feeling. And of course we don't know, how did that meeting go. But what happened at the end, this guy, he climbs up on the church roof and throw himself down to the death.
No, yeah, this is also because in this story there is so many flip outs and murders and suicides and whatever. So many, like, a little bit sounds like dangerous.
Already by 95, many people backed off, and said, I don't want to hear anything more from this, And if I meet those people still after 20 years, their opinion hasn't changed at all, Maybe it even get more strict, than it was then, So they feel that they are very right about that Ior did something very bad to this Petri Valley, But nobody knows what. And then more of these flip out cakes, appeared, Also another friend, came up. Also, I think we took him to India first time and he was very nice with us, for many years. But then at one point, he also get very intensive, and he find out that it's fault of Ior that he feels so bad. That Ior has destroyed, all his friendship, with all the friends, he had, and now everybody is involved with, and Ior is guilty. Why he feels so bad? In India, he came to the place where Ior, was staying. He came in already with a knife, but he was so confused and in such a bad mental state. So I think when he saw Ior with the knife in his hand, he started to like shake, what's happening, And then other people rushed, in and just beat him out of the restaurant. Ior sitting in a corner and saying nothing at all. Nothing for or nothing against. Just remaining silent, And then, what happened? End of May 99, this guy returns from India, and maybe on the second or third day in Finland, he goes to Ior's town apartment. So he thinks that, okay, the only thing I can do and the last thing I can do, that I have to kill Ior.
He completely trusted the destiny.
Yeah. Öde.
The destiny was everything. So whatever happened, even if it was so negative, he thought it was positive. Whatever happened. Even the first time, the stabbing in 99, he thought it was a good thing, and he just said, like, hopefully this guy didn't get any bad energies, that he did it. That kind of attitude is incredible, to have that kind of positive mind, that whatever happened was just positive. Even he was all paralyzed and almost dead.
I don't really have nothing bad to say about the Ior, but especially when I was taking care of him a little bit. It was very frustrating just for me, because he is not taking care of his things. And then if, there is something wrong, rent is not paid, for example, and I'm taking care of him, no, I have to pay the rent. Then I'm looking how is your things organized? Okay, like this. No, then I pursued, what to do next so the rent is getting paid. But there somewhere in the line, Ior is oh no, leave it. And then everything was getting somehow done, but he didn't care about, because like these tombs in Sipoo. He didn't like take care of these things. Like no way to call a lawyer or something. And he was always saying everything is coming from outside. But then he is not doing nothing. But of course it was just me because I was a little bit taking care of him, and I would take care of things. Like
the life around him, And those days the Swedes, were still very good friends to Ior. These guys, from Örebro. And many of them even rushed to Finland. And some of them even became a personal assistant of Ior. Like officially employed to be a person to look after him. But then after spending 6 months with Ior, they find out that he's not going to look after himself at all. He don't want to go any gymnastic practices, any rehabilitation, anything, like that. That now he just want to sit down on the floor, and maybe he started to be a little bit nasty to those who even tried to help him. So I think all of them just backed off, that okay, live your life like you want, but we don't want to help you as we would help, any friend of ours, And then the Indian people stepped in, one by one, they also came to help and were employed by him as a personal assistant of Ior Bock, salary and all paid by state of Finland. But one by one, they all ended up in tragedy, Soma, was also there. He just backed off, no chance. Then he brought another youngster, from the same village. And it also happened to him, And in those days, I remember when I was visiting Ior's town apartment, where these assistants from India were, that the atmosphere inside started to be quite, not intensive, but like heavy, Because later on I also find out that Ior hadn't stepped out of his apartment not once in the last 5 years of his life,
Maybe he didn't feel if there was not really so serious reason, he didn't want to start to fight against this kind of procedure or whatever.
So there is that like a feeling of like being a martyr, that you sacrifice, that I don't care, that this is my destiny, my way of doing things, yeah.
But I never like experienced that he was like being bitter or like, oh fuck, like I would be if I would be paralyzed now. I would be devastated and like
everything has its meaning and reason, but we will find it out later on. This was one good excuse for everything.
He was living in a dream, I would say, in a positive way. So this öde, so things happen. You are there within the happenings, and what he did there, he was analyzing and trying to find the meaning. What's the meaning of this thing? And this was kind of one topic very often. He was analyzing what happened and what might have been the meaning of this happening. And also trying to find a parallel things, what happened before, in the past, in the history, to find kind of similarities how those things related to other things at that time. And also trying to find kind of connections. That was really fascinating also.
Yeah, I was just 17 when I came here. Yeah, in 31st of October 2008. But yeah, when I was in India, I just heard his voice on the phone. He said, okay, so you are coming, you can meet. I said, okay. I never say him Ior, I always say him Bombole. Even though when I speak with my friends of Bombole, I always say, okay, Bombole wants this, Bombole wants that. So I never say Ior. He was just saying me like, you don't need to work so much. You have to just be with me and stay calm. It's no problem. You can have your own time, go out, not for long because he is alone at home. So we had to plan like when I will go out, like 2-3 hours, the second person will stay at home. If he goes, I will stay at home. But I usually go to my library and shopping and gym and everything like this.
Very nice assistant who did a hard job sitting inside an apartment about 2 times this room for a long time, not going out.
He was like to drink so much tea and BD is his favorite, Ganesh BD. Whenever I go to India, I was buying like 10, 12 packets. He always like, when we were talking in Konkani language, like Goan's official language, he always catch one word and he was making he was putting to his saga and then he was converting it to saga. Okay, what is this? Means like, okay, chai is like some, yeah, he playing with the words and everything.
And everybody thought that nice, that they have like their own language even to talk with each other, that when they want to get away from the Ior's like presence, they can play cards, and cook rice and lentils, and have some life, by. But it didn't go like that, as we all know.
I've been to India in August. Yeah, August it was, when I went to India for the festival. And I came back from after 1 month. So after that time, like before going there, the second assistant, like Nilesh, he was quite okay, like he was normal. But since I came back from there, he was like abnormal. He was like behaving so strange with Bumbule, with me, everybody. Even he's thinking so much that time. His changes like clothing, everything. He was wearing like lungis, which I never saw him wearing the longest. So I never saw him like this. I asked him like, what's going with you? Like he said, what happened? He said, you are behaving so strange and everything. He said, nothing happening. So one day he went out. He came back again. He told me he forgot to wear a jacket. I said, okay, wear the jacket. Then he went out. He came back again. He said, I'm thirsty. I want to drink something. He went to fridge, opened the milk, juice. At the same time, he drank, and he went out. Said, okay, I'm just looking him. I can't ask him anything. He came back again. I forgot my scarf. Said, okay, wear the scarf. Then he put the gloves. He went out. And after when he came back from there, and me and Bumbale was looking to him like, he's behaving so strange like this. And we were just like speaking like, oh, this is not normal. So when he came back after like 2 hours, he told us the story like somebody was trying to hypnotize him. Like somebody was telling him to go there. So like the person who was hypnotizing, like from his mind. So he told like he went for a long route and somebody was controlling him. Do this, do that, walk, run, something like this. Said, okay, this is not normal.
But he was in a very bad state, already many months before it happened. He saw crows, like flying through the living room, and he was hallucinating.
I was so surprised, like what's going on with him, because he is saying like somebody's trying to control him. And suddenly he put a point on me that, is it me that who is controlling him? He's like, how can you say that I'm controlling? I don't know anything about hypnotizing and everything. And I just came back from India. So what's the point with you? He said, no, something is wrong. I said, yeah, we knows that something is wrong with you. And it was a Friday on 22nd of October. The person who came there that night, he was the person who was there also like 10 years ago. And I can say like there is something with that person. He looks so weird. I was so angry on him when I saw him. I can say frankly like I was so angry on him. Because he never came within 10 years. And he came on the night before this happened. So I have some kind of doubt on him. Because that person who in 1998 who made this incident, he was also like some kind of hypnotized. Now Nilesh also hypnotized. So I don't know, like there is something connection with this person. Because he wants to do but he can't do the things. So he's trying to catch the person who are like mentally weak. And Nilesh also had some problem about like on the same night before that person came. He had a problem with the candles because Bumbule wants candles in front of him. One on the side there is like 2 candles on one table, one behind table. There is one table here. There is like 3 candles, one in the corner, one in that corner. So like he puts only like two or 3 candles on. He said, I'm getting a problem of candles. Nilesh said, and I don't want the candles here. I said, what's wrong with you? Like 2 years you've been here already and now you are getting the problem. And he also shouted on me one time. So Marcello controlled him like, hey, what's going on with you? And I was almost crying that time. When this person came, he was asking for some kind of books. Bumbule told us to give him the books which he want. The next day when he left, in the morning when we woke up, we gave him the shower and everything. And it was nice. Like he went to sleep again. Nilesh went to sleep after the shower. And me and Bumbule was drinking the tea. And it was quite a good sunshine morning. So I said to Bumbule, okay, I'm going to a shop to buy something. So I will see you like after 1 hour. I said, okay, have a nice day, sunshine day. And and I went to shop. Then when I came back, Nilesh was already woke up. So he was he was having his breakfast. And when I was taking out the stuff from the bags, he suddenly asked me like, is Ior Bock is like a god for you? God for me? I said like, what kind of question is this? Like I was so quiet because we were not talking so much before, because after this incident, he was always shouting on me. So I don't feel like to talk with him so much. I was so quiet. Then he went out to talk with Bumbule. He sat there. Maybe he smoked some BDs. He was smoking BDs with him and everything. He was sitting with him and suddenly he started I was still in kitchen. And suddenly he started to ask tell the truth, who are you? To Bumbule, he is asking. Call the police, ambulance, Maestrati people, tell your true story, who are you and everything. Because you are telling the fake stories and everything, something like this, blah blah blah. And in the end he said he can kill Ior. His hand is not worry about killing anybody. And so Bumbule was not even aware about this. He will going to do these things. His hand is not aware of killing anybody. And he did something in India also. In the end he said like this. And after that he came to kitchen. He took the knife from there. And I am also not sure that what he's going to do that. Because he's sometime doing nuts and everything with the knife only. Yeah. And if I ask him something, he's always reacting so. He's answering so angrily. And I don't want to talk with him. So I didn't ask him anything. So, and straight away he went out. And I think so that time I heard the voice of Bumbule hey, 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 3 times. And he stabbed that time for Bumbule. In his chest. So in his heart. So when I heard this hey, 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 I just ran outside. And the knife was already in the here. And I was why you did that? I just was controlling to him. I was pushing him back, pulling him back. Then he suddenly showed me the knife. Said, go back. Otherwise I will going to kill you. He showed me the knife like this with left hand. And I was so scared that I just went back. I was looking Bumbule and I started to cry. So then I started to cry over there, and And Bumbala, like, if I can count, like, not even like 30 seconds, only 30 seconds, he was like, first of all, he is paralyzed, he can't move so much. Only 30 seconds, he was just like this, and then he was stopped. And then he is telling me that call to police. I said, of course I will going to call the police because you did this thing. And when I called to police, I almost forgot the police number. It's easy, like 112, but still I forgot the number. I called to Bumble's like call center number. He was calling like 1808 something, like call center number. So I called them. I was like, I need a police number. Now Nilesh is saying to me that call from my mobile number, because he knows that if I call from my mobile, I will definitely put my recording button on, because he knows that I always like to put my recordings on. So I didn't call. I said I don't have the police number. So I called from Ior's phone. And when I was on phone with police, the police asked me like what's going on, everything. I told him like this guy killed him with the knife, and now he's doing like he was washing the knife, everything like, and he was like cleaning everything stuff. And I have to keep eyes on him, like what he's doing and where he's going, where he touched his hand. Even though I don't have idea about like investigation, but still I have to look for him. And in that, when I was with police, he said like 3 times he killed the devil. Ior was the devil and he killed the devil. That was like 3 times he said. And when the police came, he went to open the door, and he is saying to police that I killed the deer. Then the police put him the handkerchief, and then they also put for me. When they put me the handkerchief, handcuffs, yeah. So I told, I cried so much, because I told the police like, I will tell you everything what happened here. But it was when I was in India, I had a plan of becoming a police, but this guy, he put me in the prison, and I will never going to forgive him for this. So they took me in the car. I told him the story, what's happened. But now even police also can't believe me, because we are only the 2 person over there. So they suspect me over there. They took me to the prison. Like first 5 days, I didn't eat nothing. Not a single drop of water also. And I was so weak. The detectives came, they were like investigating and everything. Like my story, when we were saying, it was the same story. But when they asked him, it was always the different stories. Confusing and everything. So the detectives told me after 5 days, like, we think that you are not the one what we are suspecting, but you have to look for yourself. You have to eat, because they saw me like from the videos, like I'm not eating anything. I'm just in my room. I'm just living. I'm just crying and everything. Said, you will probably go out, but you should look for yourself. I asked him like, I need some paper, and I wrote like all the stories, what happened and everything. And I had a picture of Bumble in my mind, so I just draw the picture. I had a picture of my mom. I was just drawing and everything. We had nothing to do. Like then I asked for like, do you have Finnish books and everything? I need to learn the Finnish language. And they just gave me one sample of books, so I was just reading, listening to the radios, everything. Doing my exercise in what we can do in the prison, nothing else. So after 17 days, when they leave me, the news came like on the newspapers, like one of the person who was suspect before, he is now free. So they took me to Yanni's place, and like Yanni, I was with Yanni, then I was with Leo uncle and something like this. And yeah, somehow the life begins after this.
You know, some people, I would say, believe everything what he said. Some people think it's an incredible story, and it has changed many people's like lives and completely their thinking. But it's like impossible to say. And Ior never said that this is any kind of truth. He just said that you have to think by yourself. This is the saga, and you think. It's not about the truth. It's about saga. Everyone who tells the story, they put their own flavor. It would be impossible that the story would stay same for 50 million years. Like we see in every tradition, there is little changes. But some kind of the base saga can be the same, but then there is things happening all the time. There's new things coming in. It would be really hard to say that it's all true.
Ior was the first to make me understand that people were very happy and they lived very balanced and good lives before in a natural surrounding, and that they probably knew every bird, every plant, and all the names around us that we don't know anymore. Now we know all the names of all the new phone models and all kind of pads and pods and this and that, but we don't know anymore the trees, for example, or the birds or the plants. Since we had the same language with Ior, he kind of often gave me very serious blasts with a lot of words and information, and it was just too much. I had to listen to them 10 times to even kind of remember the basic outline. And maybe I read a children's story about, I heard once, my mother told me something similar. Many times they ring some old kind of connection with words that I've been reading in some old fairy tale or something. And like, it's really weird. It's really weird, these strange connections.
You pick up the words and you analyze them. And he was so into it that he could do it forever. Just hours and hours and days and years, and like never stop it. And just one word, and you know, any word. And he could say that, okay, this word is new, so it doesn't have so much meaning. And this word is old, and it has all the associations what you can find.
When I hear hell, for me it's to pour. To pour, or it can also be a flat stone, that is hell. Stenhäll, hella vatten. I mean, so all associations from that, all the people who don't know Swedish, they just have to trust that this is correct. Whereas we people who also had these languages, we could sit there and listen, yes, you make sense again. Kind of maybe far-fetched sometimes, but then again, thinking more closely about it, it really makes sense.
But he was also interested about all the different languages, what kind of associations you could find from Russia and Sweden, all different languages. And
yeah, that's why he was very excited when a person from another culture and language area came from. He was always questioning about the numbers, how you count to 10, 11, 12. So this was one thing. And then sound for like the sun and the moon and this kind of little bit mythological things also. And then of course your family and your name, how related to that area and culture maybe, because he knew quite a lot about different cultures and naming systems.
When we were talking in Konkani language, like Goan's official language, he always catch one word and he was making he was putting to his saga and he was converting it to saga. Okay, what is this means? Like, okay, chai is like something. He was playing with the words and everything. And then he is like always thinking, whenever he goes down for lying after the tea or breakfast, he always say he's doing kela. Kela is like a thinking, so he always say like kela kela.
At the end of the discussion, he preferred to say, and we can leave it open. Kind of give a space, not to fix things that, okay, now we decided that the reality should be like this. But leave it open. for next discussion and to find out maybe new ideas and meanings there.
Had some questions to ask him, some maybe more personal questions, or could be you find out that he know about but he don't really want to talk about it. At least before you find out, to make the question in one maybe more better way or more deep way, that he finds out that you by yourself know something a bit more about it, that now you can start one conversation about it.
I never thought I was done with, but I still question.
I still question some things, but it doesn't matter. The story is the story and should be appreciated.
I didn't took any serious about saga, but yeah, I know the alphabets and everything. A, Sarve, Boris, Shara, Teddy. I know that still in my mind.
A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, X, Y, Z, O, Ä, Ö, Ö.
I've never been so fascinated with Ior's person as many have. Most people who, when they want to know something, they start to ask questions about Ior. Isn't he like this or isn't he like that and so on. But I don't know, let people be what they are and listen more to what they say than what kind of get into details in where they have flaws in their personality. And let's hope we get to know if this story is true or not.
So first of all, I think I felt that Ior he's a good friend of mine, and I tried to keep that relation to him until end of his days.
He was like my best friend also. Whenever I came in the morning, I always smile for him. And one time he said like, Abhi, even though if you forget something in the morning or in the day, don't forget to do only one thing, smiling.
I don't really know if he ever changed my life so much in that way. Probably he did, but I don't know what I would have been without. So, I don't know, maybe just one bigger understanding of kind of nature and history.
But it's like, what do you say, like, who the hell is Ior Bock? It's I don't think anybody can really. Oh yeah, everybody can say, like, we have the official papers. He was adopted. He was born at that time. But Ior Bock, exactly that name, that was the destiny character, the storyteller character.
I uuden raa. Ior. I uuden raa. Uuden.
Ior really had this dream about making a movie, which would start with this Tsar Peter the Great, Dr. Pervi, and his good friend, was it Alexander Menshikov, sitting in a sauna in Moscow in the year 1700, looking down at the floor of the sauna, and in the floor of the sauna they have been making from different colored wood. Different wood they have been making the map of Europe. And they sit there thinking that how can we make a great port for Russia? We also want to have boats. We want to sail around the world. And they had tried in Crimea. Very, very, very difficult, very bad, much blood and war and things, and it didn't really work. So now they sit and watch there, and it's in Finnish Gulf. It must be in the Finnish Gulf. And then they started to collect this army. And in 3 years, they mobilized 30,000 men. And they all started to walk towards Finland, which was then part of Sweden. And they walked all the way to where Petersburg is now. That was at that time in Sweden. And they went to this one island there on Neva. And Peter took a stick, a pole, and he put this pole there and said that here our new capital will be. That was in Sweden. He went to the neighbor country and founded a new capital. Quite radical. Not so many do like that.
Actually, now we are not sitting down. Now we are sitting up. If we sit down, we sit down.
And I think he would have demand to remove this plastic.
Maybe one candle here.
It was like when I went also to sawmill in the winter time. And when I was on the boat, I was just looking to up on the sky. I suddenly imagined that like Bumbale is looking from me. I just saw his face from up, like on the sky.